Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's say that again. Good morning.
Good morning.
What a beautiful day we're having here in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. My name is Fran Daniels, religious science practitioner emeritus, and we welcome you to Miracle Center for Spiritual Living's Sunday morning service. Wow. I invite you now to join with me as we magnify the presence of Spirit in this morning's service. I ask you to just move within, become still, consciously unify with that space of inner love, inner peace. For we know that God is love. God is peace, joy. God is nothing but magnificent good in all arenas, all areas of life. So as we magnify that magnificent good, we consciously identify ourselves with it, with the characteristics of spirit. That peace, that joy, that love, that success, that prosperity, that perfect health, loving relationships, being one with each other. So we magnify that presence this morning to each one of us and to everyone without the sound of my voice, those on Zoom, and all of the infinite expressions of spirit throughout this universe. I decree that it is good. So I know God is in this space, magnifying its words, magnifying its feeling nature, magnifying nothing but that magnificent good of spirit. All this presence, all this good is taking place this morning, and as those who participate in this service are especially blessed, because that perfect expression of spirit moves through their words, their thoughts, their feelings. Our Board of Trustees is blessed as it carries on the forward movement of Miracle Center. The ladies that so lovingly serve after church are blessed. Our ushers are blessed. Those that support and magnify the presence of spirit is especially blessed. And it is in this word of blessing, in this magnification of that perfect spirit, that expression of perfect love, that our speaker this morning in the form of Reverend Teresa Slusher is blessed. Our mouthpiece of spirit, bringing us those words of inspiration, those words of love, those words of information. And yes, as we listen, as we take all this in, as we become open and receptive to that inspirational word of spirit, we're blessed. This universe is blessed. Everything is blessed because God is good all the time. Not sometimes, but all the time. And it's in this word of blessing, in this space of accepting the goodness of God, that I decree that this morning's service is a spiritual experience, and without question, without doubt, is in divine order. And if you're in agreement with these words that I have spoken, simply affirm with me. And so it is. So I let it be. Amen. Wow. Welcome again. As we move forward, our monthly theme summary this morning. In Science of Mind, we often say that the word God is synonymous with love because God is all there is. Agree?
Yes.
God is all there is. Love must be all there is.
Yes.
But in a world filled with war, violence, and division, it's challenging to see that God or love resides behind the darkness. This month, we are being invited to lean into love and express love out loud. Let's look for love in every place we go, in the people we interact with, the events of the world, and most of all, within ourselves. If we want to see more love in the world, we must be willing to live as an example of love in action. I'm going to repeat that. We must be willing to live as an example of love in action. And our affirmation is, I choose to remain conscious and aware of the presence of love. Repeat that with me, please. I choose to remain conscious and aware of the presence of love. Yes. Science of Mind point of view. The Science of Mind says, the world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe that wishes man to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. Surely, if God or universal intelligence is imbued with goodness, then it could not ordain that man should ultimately be other than a perfect expression of life. We are a perfect expression of life. We are already perfect expressions of life. Change or shift is simply an unlearning of the lessons of fear that have been passed down to us for generations. When we live consciously from the understanding that love is all there is, we experience a life of love greater than we have ever known. That love is all there is. We experience a life of love greater than we have ever known. And now we have a song by Michael Gott, There Is Only Love. Take it away, Michael. Oh, yes, how beautiful, beautiful. I met Michael Gott years ago at conference, and he's always been just so filled with words of love and peace. So thank you again for the beautiful selection. At this point, we're in for a special treat as we allow ourselves to be open and receptive and inspired by the words of Reverend Teresa Slusher. And her topic is Love Wins.
All right.
Let's say that together. Love wins. Reverend Teresa.
Oh, yeah, Fran. Thank you. I have to laugh because you know what? When your heart is full of love, there's like laughter, right? Anyway, good morning. And I don't know about you, but for me this morning, as I was getting ready for service, sitting down and setting up the technology of this computer, it was wonderful to hear Gilbert back at the piano. My gosh, it was such a joy. And the truth is, there is only love. And today's message is a simple message, and it is a message of all time. And that if there's only love, then love wins. Love wins. But have you been watching the news lately? This is no laughing matter. So I've got to bring myself down out of the chuckle of feeling the immense joy and love. Because you know what? When we watch the news, we get a glimpse of the world around us, and we do that to get information so we can kind of know what's going on, you know, to be informed. When we're informed, we feel connected. We can engage with others on similar topics. And to be informed, we're considered knowledgeable. And with this knowledge, we can either react or take action, right? And so many of us today look at the events in the world and we're concerned. I'm concerned. I'm worried about our future. I mean, we look at the war in Ukraine, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. We have a sinking economy. Not to paint too much of a bleak picture here, but did you know that in 1980, if you made $30,000 a year, you have to make $100,000 today just to keep up with the cost of living and the lifestyle? And this has just been happening in the past few years. And I think when I talk to people and we share the news, everyone's feeling the impact of not being able to spend like we used to. Prices are rising, and so are the sea levels. We all have climate change, fires, floods, tsunamis, hurricanes. And then we hear things like human trafficking, women and children being sold into sex slave. Has our world always had these problems? Or are we just on information overload with the internet and news from around the world? We turn on the news and we find there's no good news. We seem to hear about all the bad, all the very slim. I mean, what's our chance of hearing anything good, joyful, and positive? Our media just loves to harp on the negative and sensationalism. And what kind of mindset does this put us into? Bleak. But if we look at our past, we see the world has always had these conditions, and we're still here. There has always been conflict, disease, and division. When we look at our past, we see that compassion and solutions have also always existed throughout the ages. Look at it like this. For instance, same-gender loving couples are being affirmed around the globe more today than ever before. Transgender people are publicly embracing their identities more than ever throughout human history. And education on gender non-binary identities is increasing. We're gaining knowledge on our humanity. We're learning to introduce ourselves with our pronouns. It's becoming more common. Holding on to fear for our future is unnecessary. When we realize and acknowledge everything is in a flux of change. Hence, our time could be spent celebrating the ways in which love wins every day. It's love that empowers us to grow and to shift, to flourish and thrive in our world that is constantly changing. It is one of the greatest books, one of the greatest teaching books, a life guidebook where we can read some of the best stories on how the way the world works and how to live a serene life in this earthly world. When we came down here, we were not promised to live in peace and harmony, but we've been given the opportunity to create the peace and the harmony. This book, this guidebook is, yes, we're talking about the Bible. And you know, there's many stories in the Bible that illustrate how to live a joyful, meaningful life, a rewarding life. In fact, it's in the Gospel of Matthew 18, where our master spiritual teacher, Jesus, is talking to his disciples. He's always talking to his disciples. They're always asking questions. And he's telling his disciples about the kingdom, God's kingdom. And one of his disciples asks Jesus, who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? They want to know. Who's going to get all these rewards that Jesus is talking about? And Jesus responds saying, when he called forth a little child to him, and he placed his hand on top of the child, and he said, this child is the one that will gain all of the rewards. He said, truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, what does Jesus mean to become like a little child? Well, children are humble. They're full of humility. They are teachable. They are destitute of ambition, pride, haughtiness, and hypocrisy. We must become like little children. We must humble ourselves. We must allow humility to reach out of us into the world. We must not be so ambitious that we thwart others. We must not be so prideful that we put our thumb down, and haughtiness towards others and be hypocrites. No. We must be gentle and kind, teachable, and willing to learn. It was in Matthew 7:11 that Jesus said, the Father in heaven will give good gifts to those who ask him. We must learn to be humble and ask. And how does a child receive a gift? With openness, honesty, and unbridled joy. Yes, we need to reach in to that wellspring where joy is. It was in Matthew 8:3 that Jesus said, truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 18:4 says, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. If we are to create a world that works for everyone, perhaps we need to become as little children. Those hearts are open and whose minds are eager to learn, to be teachable, and to authentically and joyfully lean into love. When we lean into love, we become advocates for love. And we allow ourselves and everyone around us to lovingly express their own uniqueness. Lovingly express their own uniqueness, regardless of what pronouns you choose to identify with. Who cares? If it's your uniqueness, love it. Fear not. So if we lean into love, into loving, into love, what do you think this world would look like? What happens as a collective whole when our focus is on love? What would that look like? If we can believe that every experience we have is therefore the unfoldment of our highest and best for ourselves and our world, the world at large, we can do this and embrace all changes and let our past be gone. Release all of our fears. Perhaps we can live from the understanding that love always wins. And if we can do this, then perhaps we consciously see how love is always unfolding before us. Perhaps if we do this, there will be no need for war. And maybe we would become good stewards of our earth. Maybe we will learn to embrace everything and everyone around us. And all news will become good news. However, regardless of what challenges we're facing in our personal lives or in our world, we discover that love is the answer. Love is the answer because love is all there is. And remember, the universe is always changing. It is in constant flux, constant change. And we know the only constant is love. So if the only constant is love, then love is the solution to every problem, to every conflict. Look at it like this. I said this was a simple message today, a simple message. And when we can embrace that simple message, any experience that causes conflict is an invitation for a shift. When we dive deeper into love to resolve any conflict that arises, we allow for a simple, easy shift to occur. Conflict actually allows for us to practice radical forgiveness, a complete forgiveness. When we respond to our challenges with radical forgiveness, we demonstrate the value of not only forgiveness itself, but of unconditional love. Instead of pointing the finger and blaming, we can open our hearts and our minds to being forgiving. For when we practice radical forgiveness, we serve as an example to others of how radical forgiveness can look. Every challenge, every conflict is an invitation to discover how love resides behind everything. It's in our Science of Mind textbook on page 298 that Ernest Holmes writes, love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. But can we really have a world of loving one another without self-love? Perhaps this is where we really discover love is within ourselves. And when we're kind and gentle. You know, so many people today are angry at the world, angry at each other, angry and upset with the conditions and circumstances that we all help to create. Yeah, we're all responsible. We all can take accountability of the conditions and circumstances. It's not one individual that's doing it. We're all participants. But if we are to shift, we must learn to love oneself. So what would self-love look like? Perhaps it is eating good food, getting proper rest, taking care of our body. And I know it's all difficult. It's easy to reach for that bag of potato chips. It's fun to stay up and party all night. Well, not lately, not in my life anyway, but in my past, that's what we did when we were in our teens and in our 20s. We wanted to stay up and party all night. It's not so easy to take care of the body. So perhaps it is to be gentle and kind with yourself as you shift your outlooks, your perspectives, and your lifestyle. To not beat yourself up when things don't go as you planned. And to really listen to your heart and soul. To stop ignoring that quiet inner voice that is telling you to slow down. And to be kind, to extend forgiveness instead of blame. To open your heart and mind and to release the fears that hold you back. When we love ourselves, our lives shift. And it's our authenticity that inspires our joy. When we're out in the world serving as an example of self-love, we are proving to others that love always wins. Our decision to embrace who we are inspires others to do the same. Loving ourselves out loud attracts people into our lives who celebrate us. Transgenderism today is being celebrated like never before. We are more than just merely tolerating. We are loving. Loving ourselves and each other aligns us with beautiful opportunities, experiences, and peace. So see, self-love has the power to change your world. And when your world changes, the whole world changes. And we must start within yourself and start in your own home. We can say that changing the world starts at home with your immediate loved ones. Look at love in your relationships, the relationships in your life. You might ask yourself, how can I demonstrate my love more often? Cooking a meal, making a bed, sweeping the floor, washing and scrubbing, and taking out the garbage may be routine chores. And yet, they are acts of love and care. Showing appreciation for the routine may not be common, but say thank you. Say thank you with your words, with love notes, text messages. Show your appreciation for all the little things that seem common or routine. Send a card through the mail or a letter through the mail. Take that time. They are an investment in creating a thoughtful and considerate world. And take the time to bless the people around you. Bless people with your love and prayer. When we focus on being more loving and being more appreciative in our homes, we carry this attitude into our communities and into our world. Love is always forgiving, and love is the power that empowers us and propels us to live a life worth living. And we have a reading today, and it's an excerpt from the Science of Mind magazine, and I believe Fran is our reader.
Thank you. The following excerpt is from the Science of Mind magazine, September 2023 issue, page 75, written by Reverend Dr. Carol Carnes. Love is all there is in the cosmic sense. Love is a power that draws harmonious energies together to power, since love is a power that draws harmonious energies together to coalesce into some form or experience. Love of an idea, for instance, is often the point where revolution begins. Love of truth leads to new science and perhaps the transformation of religion. Love of human expression causes us to build museums, art galleries, symphony halls, and jazz clubs. Love of our human form celebrates all kinds of dance and athletics. Love of language gives us books, theater, song lyrics, and poems. Love of freedom impels us to elect harmonious leaders, those who love the idea of freedom and justice for all, or to hold office ourselves. Love of humanity gives us faith in our ability to change our minds, do better for each other, and general prosperity in new ways. Love of diversity is a healing agent for the negativity of fear. Love of difference gives rise to joy and celebration. Love of nature takes us out of our self-absorption, so we identify ourselves as inseparable from the forests, the oceans, the mountains, rivers, and lakes, and the cycle of birth and rebirth. Love lifts us out of dominion over the world into being the caretakers of it. Love as a spiritual quality is more about action, revealing our compassion and caring through acts of kindness and generosity. The energy of feeling a kinship with all life is love. It is the power that unless blesses and heals the sense of separation. Love is the power that makes all things new. Therefore, love is synonymous with God. Love is the answer to every question. Amen.
Thank you, Fran. And now we have a song. Oh, yes, love. Yes, love can and does move the world. And if we look at love long enough, we're taught in the Science of Mind on page 491, if we look at love long enough, we shall become lovely. For this is the way of love. God is love. If we gaze longingly at joy, it will make its home with us, and we shall enter into its portals and be happy. You know, try this when we get bad news or when we watch the news. Remember, it is only news. It is the conditions and situations that are being reported. And we can change our minds, our thoughts, our ideas, our feelings around what we hear. We can listen with an open heart and an open mind, and we can practice radical forgiveness. This is our opportunity to creating a more loving and kind world, a loving and kind world instead of condemning what we hear. Instead of criticizing, instead of revolting and, simply just pointing the finger and blaming all of the things that we don't like as happening to us, we can embrace and know that life is happening through us and as us. We, the love that we are, can change the world. When we do this, the whole world will change. We can shift our eyes from every disappointment and know that every day is a new day, a new opportunity to shift our world. What if this change is the opportunity of something bigger, greater, larger, better, more than, far beyond, exceeding, and abundantly above anything that we could actually fathom or imagine? What if all of these changes are for our highest and our best, and all we need to do is love? To believe in ourselves, to believe in God, to believe in something greater than ourselves, to believe that love is all there is, to have that faith. It was in John 11:40. Here's another gospel, John 11:40, that states, if you believe, you will see the glory of God. If we can transform, if we can look beyond, if we can aspire to something greater, if we can just love, we will see that glory. We will see that glorious world that we came in here to participate in, to love and to cherish, to honor our uniqueness. It was Deepak Chopra that wrote in his book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, a practical guide to the fulfillment of your dreams. He wrote, when your your internal reference point is your spirit. When you are immune to criticism and unfearful of any challenge, you can harness the power of love and use energy creatively for the experience of affluence and evolution. What if we realize that we're just in an evolutionary process of discovery into the love that we are? That everything that is happening outside of us is just that opportunity to embrace our truth. Here's a practical example that demonstrates how love can move the world. I find it in this story. There's a couple by the name of Mildred Jeter and Richard Loving. Nice name, right? Their loving was, well, let's put it like this. This couple was actually charged by the state of Virginia for marrying at a time when interracial marriages were banned by the state. The US Supreme Court struck down the ban, leading to interracial marriages becoming legalized throughout the whole country. That couple loved each other enough, and that couple changed the law. The country was able to embrace them with love and change that law. And then there's the show called Will and Grace. It premiered on NBC way back in 1998. And it was the first network TV show with the same gender loving protagonist. Same gender loving protagonist. But that show sparked a global shift towards cultural acceptance of same gender loving people. Marriage equality became a cultural conversation. And the Netherlands became the first country to pass marriage equality laws in 2001. And now there are 30 countries with marriage equality laws and other countries still advocating for it. The writers of Will and Grace, the executives at NBC, they stood in their truth. They stood in their truth with love, contributing to a wave of marriage equality. Marginalized, what we call marginalized individuals throughout history have fought for the right to be themselves. And they paved the way for a global shift, but it was only because they loved themselves enough to stand up for themselves, to stand in love for what they believe. Freedom starts with an individual's decision to love out loud. Take that love within and bring it into the world. It's a simple message. Is it easy? It is when you embrace love. It is simple when you are loving and kind and gentle from the inside out. It is us. We all have the power to respond to conflict around us with love. This is your call to action, to do that, to respond to the conflict around us with love, regardless of appearances, regardless of what we view in the news, regardless of the news that you get from those around you. To stop pointing the finger and to be the one to make the transformation. When we hear bad news, it doesn't mean that we are to ignore or spiritually bypass our world events. but take effective action within our communities. And that requires that we start by loving ourselves first. And yes, it's important to find the balance between self-love and giving back to our own communities. We don't want to be a pushover or a doormat. We don't want to be a robot that says yes at every drop of the bucket. We want to love ourselves enough to stand in our power. Loving the people around us is a more constructive use of our time than complaining. When we serve by example and share our experiences with the people around us, we inspire others to do the same. We inspire others to do the same. We have a wonderful, loving community right here at Miracle Center. And I hear we've been making waves. We have been taking our actions, our activities, in a loving embrace out into the world and inviting the world in to join us in a loving way. We've been holding events, raffles, and fundraisers in the way of, what do you call that? Fashion shows, where there's been so much joy and so much creativity and care. And we benefit. We have benefited immensely, just not in connection with others, just not in relationship with others, but financially as well. So take your open heart and your open mind and love from within out into the world. We're going to go ahead and take this into prayer. So please join me. Knowing that there is only love, there is only one mind, one divine source that sources all beings in this world, one power, one love, one creativity, one divine intelligence. Knowing that this is so, knowing that this is, that this love, this joy, this peace, this harmony, if there's only one, it is operating in, around, through, and as each individual. I know that this is true for me. I know that this is true for all individuals in this world, that there is that one light, that one divinity operating around, in, and as. And it is good, it is very good. And in knowing this truth, I speak my word, my loving words. The words that are helping to shift and change this world into a world that works for everyone, where I see all peoples coming together, loving, joyfully engaged in kind, loving ways, in celebration, creating all of the artistic talents being brought forth in our architecture, in our theater, in our relationships, in every aspect of humanity, being that creative force, that loving force, creating a world that works for everyone, releasing and letting go any and all fears that hold back, smite down, complain, returning all of that back into the nothingness from which it came. I see this, I feel it, and I know it to be true. With every breath, with every spoken word, with everything that has been endowed into the human spirit. And for this, I give thanks. I give thanks for all of this immense beauty taking forth and shaping our world, shifting it into one global unity. For this, I give thanks, knowing that this truth is stepping forward. And I release my words into the law, knowing that there is prosperity, love, joy, harmony, well-being. I release my words into the law, knowing that it is done and done now. And together we say, and so. Amen. And I believe we have some announcements.
Well, the first announcement is, I should have told you to fasten your seatbelts. Let's give Reverend Teresa a big hand. Thank you. Thank you. All right, our announcements will be in the future as we resume here now and take up our collection. We thank you for supporting financially and in prayer Miracle Center for Spiritual Living. And we just thank you for being a part of our loving community. And I say that very explicitly, our loving community. So I would like you all to give yourselves a big hand for being a part of our love. Okay? And at this point, we will move into our benediction. I invite you to just come together and let us just reflect on the actions and words that have been spoken, the inspiring words that make us want to move forward, make us want to demonstrate more of love. Love, love. Love makes the world go round. We just give thanks for the words and the lessons that we have been inspired with through Reverend Teresa's talk this morning. And we bless ourselves in love because we are committed to expressing, to walking, to listening, to letting go, everything all done in essence of love. Love, love, love. So I give thanks for this opportunity to be one with the Spirit consciously. I give thanks for sharing, for being with loving ones here at Miracle Center for Spiritual Living. And when we go forth knowing this week that I am love because God is love. And if you're in agreement with me, simply affirm. And so it is. Amen. Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you for joining us this morning. Those within the sound of my voice, those on Zoom. And I believe we can go on Zoom or YouTube and see past services, right, Jerry? Our Jerry Lawson, let's give him a hand because he really works hard behind the scenes, bringing us all the computer knowledge there is. And let's thank Chris, but this is a team that works together, you know, because if you depended on me, I don't think we get this service running as smoothly as they do. So let's give them a hand again. Thank you so much. Have a blessed week. And this does conclude this morning's service. We'll join together in the peace song.